Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. So go ahead and settle in. But actually, scratch that. Maybe don't get too comfortable. Today we're diving into a quietly unsettling reality that sneaks up on almost every single one of us. Have you ever felt that lingering sense that your days are just bleeding into one another? Like that vibrant, completely unpredictable life you always envisioned is somehow turned into this repetitive grind? Well, you are definitely not alone. We're going to unpack exactly why this happens, how your brain actually tricks you into this cycle, and, most importantly, the practical steps you can take to finally break free.
I mean, seriously, just take a second and think back to yesterday. What did you actually do? Okay, now try to pull up last Tuesday in your mind, or maybe just a random Wednesday from 3 weeks ago. If you're being completely honest with yourself, this specific details probably just blur together into one singular continuous block of time, don't they? It's really tough to pull out a distinct, sparkling memory.
Because for so many of us, the morning kicks off exactly the same way. You wake up to that exact same annoying, blaring alarm sound, you reach over, probably with your eyes still glued shut, and you just smash that snooze button. It's totally automatic, right? Like a programmed physical reflex.
And then comes the classic zombie shuffle to the coffee maker. While it's brewing, you're probably checking the exact same 3 apps on your phone. Then you're out the door, taking the exact same route to work, staring out the exact same window on the train or in your car, passing the exact same buildings without even really seeing them anymore. And your evening, well, it probably winds down with you scrolling past the exact same style of content on your phone until your head finally hits the pillow. And then, bam, the alarm blares all over again. You see, we've kind of reached this point where most of us aren't really aging by days anymore. We are essentially living one single day, just duplicated thousands of times. It's wild. And the crazy part is, we aren't trapped in some weird sci-fi movie time loop. No, we actually built this loop ourselves, brick by brick, and we just justified it under this comforting little guise of having a routine.
All right, let's dive right into section 1, the autopilot trap, or as I like to call it, the efficiency curse.
So, why on earth do we actually do this to ourselves? Well, the truth is, your life feeling like an endless loop has absolutely nothing to do with a lack of imagination or ambition. It's actually just plain old biology. So on the left side here, we've got your prefrontal cortex. Now, every single time you make a conscious, active decision, like what to wear, trying a new recipe, or even picking a brand new route to work, this part of your brain literally burns glucose. It takes real physical energy. And since your brain is basically this hyper-efficient supercomputer that absolutely hates wasting energy, it looks for a workaround. And that brings us to the right side, the basal ganglia. Your brain takes any behavior you repeat frequently and basically turns it into an automated habit script. It just hands the steering wheel right over to the basal ganglia to handle things on autopilot. So, when you're busy optimizing your life for maximum efficiency and maximum comfort, you are actually accidentally putting your entire existence on autopilot just to save some mental energy.
And this perfectly explains a really fascinating psychological phenomenon known as the time perception paradox. Think about this for a second. Have you ever noticed how a week-long vacation to a totally brand new, unfamiliar place feels like it lasted a whole month? But then, a normal month at home doing your usual day-to-day routine is just gone in the absolute blink of an eye?
Now, what's really interesting about this is the massive difference in memory encoding. During that one-week vacation, literally everything is new, so your brain is forced to encode a huge amount of data. That high bar, that represents all those rich, vivid memories. But then look at the incredibly low bar for the one-month routine. When everything in your environment is totally predictable, your brain just stops recording. I mean, why bother? It doesn't need to save the data because it already knows exactly how the day is going to end. So when you look back at a whole year of these repetitive days, your brain simply collapses them all into one single blurry memory.
I really want you to just let that sink in for a moment. A repetitive life literally makes time move faster. You aren't just feeling bored by your routine. By living a highly optimized, completely predictable life, you are actively erasing your own timeline. You are literally telling your brain, hey, don't bother hitting the record button today.
Okay, moving on to section 2, the cost of comfort, and why it becomes a flat line. We absolutely have to talk about the emotional toll of this loop. Look, the loop is incredibly comfortable, and honestly, that is exactly why it is so remarkably dangerous. Inside your loop, there's zero risk of failure. There's no rejection, no social awkwardness. You know exactly what text messages you're going to get, what your boss is going to say, and exactly how your evening screen time will numb you out. But here's the hard truth. Comfort and aliveness simply cannot coexist in the same space. When you meticulously scrub all the unpredictability out of your life, you also completely eliminate serendipity.
You lose the chance of bumping into someone who totally shifts your perspective, or discovering some hidden passion you had no idea you had, or having one of those wildly spontaneous nights you'll still be laughing about when you're 80 years old. By choosing total predictability, you're basically trading the rich, vibrant texture of a real life for a completely flat line. So, what do we do about it? Let's dive into Section 3, Breaking the Loop, through strategic friction.
So the absolutely crucial point here is, how do we actually get out of this without completely burning our lives to the ground? Good news, you do not need to pack up your stuff, quit your stable job, and run off to a cabin across the world to break this cycle. You don't need to destroy the healthy structure of your life. You just need to introduce this awesome concept called strategic friction. It's basically defined as introducing small, unpredictable variables into your daily routines to force your brain out of those automated habit scripts. Think of it like intentionally throwing a tiny wrench into the basal ganglia's automation. You're forcing your brain to wake up, look around, and start burning a little bit of that glucose again. Let's walk through this loop disruption framework together, because it's actually super practical. First up, we have the geography shift. So if your automated action is taking the exact same commute every single day, the strategic friction is to take a totally different route. Even just walking on the opposite side of the street works. And why this works is fascinating. It forces your eyes to scan completely new visual data, which instantly wakes up your spatial awareness. Next, consider the analog hour. If you're someone who instantly grabs your phone the very second you open your eyes, your friction is putting a physical book on your nightstand instead and committing to no screens for just the first 30 minutes of the day. This simple act prevents your morning from being immediately hijacked by external algorithms right out of the gate. And finally, there's the micro-novelty rule. If you're always eating the exact same food and watching the exact same genre on Netflix, your friction is trying just one new thing a week with a 0% predictability rate, like a totally new cuisine or an artist you've never even heard of. It sounds small, but it forces your brain to create brand new neural pathways and actually log a truly unique memory.
Let's move to our final part and see how this all builds in Section 4, Your First New Day, Rewriting the Script.
Now listen, the loop is stubborn. It desperately wants you to believe that tomorrow is just going to be an inevitable, boring sequel to today. But you have the pen. You can rewrite the script. I absolutely love this thought. We all have two lives. The second one starts when we realize we only have one. The very second you consciously introduce just a tiny bit of choice, a little bit of discomfort, or just a dash of novelty into your routine, the loop simply cannot hold. It shatters.
So tomorrow morning, when that alarm goes off, your brain is going to try to run the exact same comfortable script it ran today. So my question to you is, what tiny thing are you going to change tomorrow to let your brain know there's been a rewrite? Don't let your timeline get erased. Step out of the autopilot, introduce some strategic friction, and wake up to a brand new day. Thanks for joining me on this explainer.